So now we're going to talk about the Docker container management on AWS. So first of all, you should understand what is a Docker and containers. In the last session, we already covered Dockers carry containers, and containers consist of multiple blocks of an application run. Like code as it also carries other dependencies. Okay. So let's learn about how AWS help us in managing the Docker containers easily. Now, once again, containers are like a small package of software that includes everything to run application. ஒரு application தேவையான எல்லாத்தையுமே will be putting inside a container. And that AWS provides a powerful tool to work with these containers actually. Now, first of all, what is ECS? ECS expands to Elastic Container Services. So Amazon ECS is the AWS own container platform. AWS own container platform. So inside that, I can put all my applications and dependencies. It helps you run and manage containers without worrying about setting up a complicated infrastructure. The entire container service is managed by Amazon only. Next one, Amazon's EKS. What is it? Amazon EKS is AWS managed Kubernetes services. Okay, it's called managed Kubernetes. Okay, remember this word. It's called managed Kubernetes services. Now, what is a Kubernetes? Kubernetes is an open source tool that helps in managing the container. ஒரு container manage பண்றதுக்கு we need a Kubernetes services. Okay, so that's what EKS means. Now, why to use it? If you already know what is Kubernetes services, then it's easy for you to understand, or else this makes it easy to use Kubernetes with AWS directly. இதை பத்தி in-depth நீங்க அப்புறம் படிப்பீங்க. இப்போதைக்கு just we are seeing overview. Next AWS Fargate. Now, what is a Fargate? As the name says, AWS Fargate is a serverless container platform. Now, with Fargate, you no need to worry about managing servers at all. It works with both ECS and EKS. So you can run your containers without needing to set up entire server itself. So Fargate word vandale adu serverless சொல்லணும் ஞாபகம் Amazonல ஏதாவது நேம் போட்டு லாஸ்டா Fargate போட்டாங்கன்னா it will be a serverless thing. Next ECR, Elastic Container Registry. So ECR is a place to store your container images. உங்களோட container image இருக்கு இல்லையா அதை ஸ்டோர் பண்றதுக்கு யூஸ் பண்றதா என்னது ECR. Now it's going to keep your container image safe and easy to access when you need them. So why this actually slide is important? Because these tools are used for managing the containers on AWS simple and efficient. ECS and EKS help run your containers. ECS and EKS, they are used for they will help you in running the container itself. Fargate removes the need to manage servers. So இது serverless இருக்குது. Next ECR உங்களோட container image store பண்றதுக்கு எனக்கு ECR இருக்கு. So there are 4 different functionalities. இது ரெண்டும் almost same தான். இது வேற சொல்லலாம். Next, let's talk about the Amazon ECS EC2 launch type of the purpose. See, ECS expands to Elastic Container Services. A launch Docker containers on AWS is equals to launch ECS task on ECS cluster. So ECS task patti we have already know some basic information, like we have multiple tasks. Okay. So let's talk about this entire topic clearly now. So here we're going to talk about how to use Amazon's ECS with EC2 launch type. This is one way to run Docker's containers on AWS. Now, first of all, what is ECS? ECS stands for Elastic Container Services. It's basically a service that helps you launch and manage Docker containers on AWS. So, உங்க டாக்கர் கண்டெய்னர்ஸ் வந்து நீங்க லான்ச் பண்றதுக்கும் மேனேஜ் பண்றதுக்கும் யூஸ் பண்றதுக்கான சர்வீஸ் தான் இது ECS. When you use ECS, you run your containers in a group of virtual machines called ECS clusters. So, இந்த இருக்கு பாருங்க. So, I'm running a group of them into one single cluster. So, first of all, what is an EC2 launch type means? அப்படின்னா, the EC2 launch type means that you are using an Amazon EC2 instance to run your containers. So, ஒரு EC2 instance குள்ள வந்து நீங்க containers வந்து run பண்றீங்க. But here is a catch. You are responsible for creating and managing the EC2 instance. நம்ம தான் ரெடி பண்ணது. ஓகேங்களா? Now, how does it work? First step, you do provisioning of your EC2 instance, which you already know. You must launch your EC2 instance and add them to the ECS cluster. Add பண்ணனும். Second step பாத்தீங்கன்னா, you have to run the ECS agent. The EC2 instance need to have ECS agent installed because these agents allows EC2 instance to communicate to the ECS services. Then வந்து you have to launch Docker containers. Once your ECS cluster is ready, you can launch Docker containers, nothing but task. Docker containers, I can compare with the task itself. See, when I say Docker container, right, imagine like a whale fish, அது மேல containers. இதெல்லாம் சேர்ந்தா இதான் Docker container வச்சுக்கோங்க. Think it's as a Docker container. This entire thing is a one task. ஒரு வேலை பார்க்கறதுக்காக ரெடி ஆகிட்டு இருக்க ஒரு சர்வீஸ் சொல்லணும் நம்ம. ஓகேவா? So AWS helps in managing the containers also because AWS will take care of starting and stopping your containers on EC2 instances. So in this slide la நீங்க எல்லாம் ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கணும் பாத்தீங்கன்னா, you are managing the EC2 infrastructure and you need to handle scaling, updates, maintenance of the EC2 instance. And the EC2 instance குள்ள தான் உங்களுக்கு வந்து agent, Docker எல்லாமே இருக்கு. So EC2 instance நீங்க தான் பத்திரமா பார்த்துக்கணும். Amazon will not do anything about that. Next, ECS simplifies the container management because it takes care of launching and stopping the containers. So you don't have to manage that particular part. Now, எப்போலாம் அதை யூஸ் பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, see, as EC2 instance is managed by you, right? Whenever you want a full control over EC2 instances, அப்பையில நீங்க யூஸ் பண்ணிக்கலாம். Okay. Now it's great when you need a specific customization on your instances. For example, எனக்கு ஒரு customer இருக்காரு and he specifically inform me that I want this instance type only, I want this OS only ன்னு சொல்லிட்டு he has given me certain criteria and he needs a full control on your instance. அந்த conditionல you can go with this particular launch type. But இதுல வந்து workload ரொம்ப அதிகமா இருக்கும் உங்களுக்கு உங்க சைடுல. Next வந்து ECS ஓட Fargate launch type. So Fargate means what?
Serverless.
Correct. So Fargate சொன்னோனே first mind வருதுன்னா serverless. So now let's talk about the another way to run Docker containers on AWS, and that's using your Fargate launch type. This method makes things much easier because it's a serverless model. Now, what is Fargate launch type first of all? So Fargate is a serverless way to run your containers on AWS. This means you no need to manage EC2 instances or servers at all. இது எப்படி இருக்காதுன்னு பார்த்தலாம் first. First வந்து here you can see I don't have any infra to manage. Unlike EC2 launch type, here you don't need provision or maintain servers at all. AWS does everything for you. Next, about the task definition. ஒரு டாஸ்க்னா is equal to Docker containers. So here you only need to define the task. This means specifying how much CPU, how much RAM you need in the containers. Now AWS manage everything else, meaning your AWS will automatically run your containers based on your task definition, and you don't need to worry about scaling also because it's going to take care about that. To handle more workload, you just need to create more number of tasks, and AWS will take care of the hard part of it. So நீங்க டாஸ்க் இன்க்ரீஸ் பண்ண நம்பர் ஆஃப் டாஸ்க் இன்க்ரீஸ் பண்ணீங்கன்னா அதுக்கேற்ற மாதிரி AWS will launch or create more instances. Now, key benefit of using this particular type is that first thing serverless, so you don't need to create or manage EC2 instances at all, and easy to scale, meaning scaling is as simple as changing the number of tasks. Now you can simply focus on application instead of managing the entire service. So இதை எப்பெல்லாம் யூஸ் பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, if you want to avoid complexity in managing your servers, and it's perfect for the apps where you need fast deployment and scaling without any sort of extra works. So அந்த மாதிரி conditionல you can use Fargate. So we have seen so far ECS, EC2 and ECS Fargate. Next ECS IAM role பத்தி பார்க்கலாம். So let's learn how AWS uses IAM roles to manage security in Amazon ECS. See, Amazon ECS பொறுத்தவரை, as of now, you understood that we have something called task, task A, task B, task C இருக்கும். And these tasks need to push the output to S3 bucket or DynamoDB, or it can be another instance also. And we have Dockers, ECS Dockers இருக்கும். And those Dockers will be talking with either ECS, ECR, or CloudWatch logs. So these communications which we have, it can be controlled by IAM roles. Nothing but your identity access management rules. It ensures that ECS tasks and services have a right permission to perform their particular action securely. So first of all, let's understand the two types of IAM roles. One வந்து EC2 instance profile. Next வந்து EC2 task role. Now the EC2 instance profile, this role is used by the ECS agent running on each EC2 instances. என்னெல்லாம் பண்ணுவான்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, it can make API calls to your ECS services. It can send logs to your CloudWatch logs where you can monitor your container. It can even pull Docker images from Elastic container registry. It can even reference sensitive data like passwords stored in AWS secret managers or SSM parameters. So இவங்களால தான் பண்ண முடியும். Okay. So this role, EC2 instance profile role, does these many things. Next on the EC2 task role. So this role is assigned to ECS specific task. Now each task can have its own role and permission. You can use different roles for different tasks or services. This ensures that tasks can only access the resources they need. The key point பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கிறதுக்கு, EC2 instance profile இருக்கு இல்லையா, it is used only in the EC2 launch type. ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோங்க. And this is to manage the ECS agent. Okay, so EC2 launch time பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, it is EC2 instance profile பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, it is present only in EC2 launch type, and it is helping manage the ECS agent. இதே ECS task role பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, it's defined in the task definition and used by task to access AWS resources like S3 and DynamoDB and all. Is it clear about this thing? If yes, type in chat yes. If no, ask the question, please. Next thing you want to remember. Amazon ECS load balancer integration. That's a good topic. Okay. So let's talk about how load balancers work with the ECS to handle incoming traffic and distribute it to your containers. So number diagram first, we have users accessing our application. I mean application but they have to access through ALBs only, load balance only, using either port number HTTP or HTTPS. And how my ALB is going to help in dividing the traffic and giving it to multiple instances in the ECS cluster. So application load balancers supported and works for most use cases. Then network load balancers recommended only for high throughput performance use cases or to pair with the AWS private link. Apro Elastic load balancer supported but not recommended. Okay, let's see this thing. Okay, so basically, load balancers use panni, I can handle the incoming traffic to Amazon ECS so that I can distribute it across your different containers. The load balancers plays a very important role to ensure that your application is running smoothly. First of all, what is load balancers? You guys know already, right? Someone tell me what is load balancers.
Request value high heights அப்படினாக்கா, so it will add much more easy to instance to balance the load.
Correct. So basically, it receives a request from the user and sends them to different containers running in your ECS cluster. Yeah. So this ensures that your containers, even one containers, is not overwhelmed with too many requests actually. Talking about types of load balancers and how they're going to impact my informations here. So talking about first one is ALB. So ALB is another application load balancers. It's basically a smart load balancer that works well for most of the use cases. எப்பெல்லாம் யூஸ் பண்ணலாம்னா when you have a web applications or APIs, because it supports advanced features like path-based routing, meaning sending a request to specific task based on URL. So example ஸ்லாஷ் லாகின் ஒரு யூஆர்எல் இருக்குன்னா அது ஒரு டாஸ்க் சொல்லலாம் நம்ம ஸ்லாஷ் ப்ராடக்ட்னா அதுக்கு ஒரு டாஸ்க் இருக்கு. ஸோ உங்களுக்கு வந்து வெப்சைட்.com ஸ்லாஷ் லாகின் அது ஒரு வெப்சைட், ஒரு வெப்பேஜ். அந்த வெப்பேஜ்ல வந்து கஸ்டமர் லாகின் பண்ண போறான், லாகின் பண்றாங்க இல்லையா? ஸோ அதை வந்து ஒரு டாஸ்க் ஆக்கலாம் நம்ம. தட்ஸ் ஒன் டாஸ்க். திஸ் டாஸ்கோட மெயின் ஜாப் வந்து கஸ்டமர் லாகின் ஸ்மூதா பண்றது. நெக்ஸ்ட் வந்து இன்னொரு டாஸ்க் ரெடி பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன். அந்த டாஸ்க் பாத்தீங்கன்னா when the customer is want to view products, right, the entire product catalog, அது எல்லாமே பார்க்க முடியும் clear with a smooth flow. That will be for maybe amazon.com/products. இது ஒரு டாஸ்க். ஸோ வர்ற டிராஃபிக்கை பிரிச்சு தர முடியும் யாரு ALB ஆல. ஒன்று லாகின்க்கு டிராஃபிக் கொஞ்சம் போகும், இன்னொன்று வந்து ப்ராடக்ட்டுக்கு போகும். அது மாதிரி பண்ணலாம் டிபெண்டிங் ஆன் வேர் தே ட்ரை டு ஆக்சஸ் இட். நெக்ஸ்ட் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா next thing is your network load balancer. So this is going to be a high performance load balancer designed for very fast traffic. Okay va? So எப்போ யூஸ் பண்ணலாம்? When you need to have a high throughput or low latency connection, and it is often used with the AWS private link to have a private connection. So think about handling millions of requests for a high traffic application. Maybe think about security cameras which we have now. So Chennai pathina, we have a lot of security cameras that collects the number plates and gives to a central location, right? So you'll get millions of requests every day. So this can be used on that case. NLB can be used. Next one, the ELB, Elastic Load Balancers. No, it's basically an older one. So as of it is still supported, but it lacks a lot of advanced feature. And please remember that ELB doesn't works with Fargate or Kaha. So is it clear? Everyone? If no questions, type in chat no. Then I will have one question. Okay, great. Vikram ku purinjidalaya?
Yeah, yes.
Super. So Vikram, what is this particular private link means? சொல்லுங்க அப்படின்னா என்னது?
ஒரு லைக் ஒன் அப்ளிகேஷன் உள்ள வந்து இப்போ அமேசான் வெப்சைட் எடுத்துக்கணும்னா இப்போ பப்ளிக்காக எல்லாரும் பார்க்குற மாதிரி ஒரு வெப்சைட் இருக்கும். இப்போ யூசர் லாகின் பண்ணோன்னா அவருக்குன்னு தனியாக ஒரு ஸ்கர்டைன் கார்ட்லாம் அவைலபிலிட்டி இருக்குங்க.
AWS private link. இது ஒரு kind of a service தானே இது. Explain AWS private link service. Others சொல்லுங்க யாராவது? ஹரி பிரசாந்த், கணேசன், பாப் சுப்பு, ஆன்சர் பண்ணுங்க. Can anyone guess what is AWS private link word I used here?
AT/44. S3 bro.
இல்ல
VPC
VPC வருது. VPC அவ்வளவு பெரிய டாபிக்கா அது.
லைக் விபிசிலையும் நம்ம வந்து செக்யூரா எடுத்துட்டு போவோம்ல. ஸோ
VPC தான். ஸோ பேசிக்கா உங்களோட ஒரு சர்வீஸ் இருக்குல்ல, இமேஜின் தட் யூ ஹாவ் அ சர்வீஸ், ஓகேவா? அந்த சர்வீஸை வந்து பிரைவேட்டா இஃப் யூ வாண்ட் டு ஹாவ் அ கனெக்டிவிட்டி டு அ VPC cloud. So without exposing your data to the internet, in that case, this link which is getting formed, right? It is called AWS or private links. So it is basically a service offered by Amazon that allows you to privately access services hosted on websites, hosted on AWS from your VPC without exposing data to the public internet. So you can have a secure connection or private connectivity between your VPC and the services.
Tunneling mooring.
Tunneling na again it is going to go through internet and we are securing it. இது இன்டர்நெட்டே போகாது. இது ஒரு private connection within AWS. Tunneling எப்போ யூஸ் ஆகும்னா உங்க data is going through a public internet and you want tunnel them. பட் இங்க போகவே இல்லை. Okay, fine. We'll go for a break. We'll join back and we'll talk about the next topic. That will be Amazon ECS data volumes using EFS. இதை பத்தி பார்ப்போம். அதுக்கப்புறம் we'll talk about order scaling, launch type. We have few slides to cover and finish on the EKS. Fine guys, thank you.
இதுக்கெல்லாம் லேப் செஷன் இருக்குமா?
இதுக்கு லேப் இல்லைங்க, உங்களுக்கு பேசிக் லேப் தான் இருக்கு. இதுக்கெல்லாம் லேப்ஸ் that comes under AWS professional level. Second level. புரியல.
இப்போ அது நம்மளுக்கு யூஸ் ஆகாதுன்னு கேட்குறேன்.
கேட்கல சரியா?
இப்போ நம்ம
So now we'll talk about Amazon ECS data volumes using EFS. EFS உங்களுக்கு already தெரியும், Elastic File System, and we know the basics also, how does EFS works and the difference between EBS and EFS. So let's see how to integrate them. So EFS is another Elastic File System, and it's basically a shared file storage system, and it allows multiple containers to access the same files even if they are running in different places, called availability zones. So என்ன பெனிஃபிட்னு பார்க்கும்போது like how does it EFS works with ECS கேட்டிங்கன்னா, first you can mount EFS file system onto ECS task. So same EFS file system கொண்டு போயிட்டு I can put in the multiple task of ECS, and benefit is that same EFS file system can be attached with the EC2 instance launch type as well as Fargate launch type oda ECS. ரெண்டுக்குமே வந்து I can use same EC2 instances, and task running on any availability zone can share same data in EFS file system too. Next, talking about the benefits. The benefit is very simple. Using Fargate plus EFS means you don't need to have worry about managing the servers even for storage, because AWS will handle everything for you, and you have multi-AZ shared storage also, meaning data is accessible through multiple availability zone, making it reliable and more consistent. Next, the data stays there even if the container stops, making it perfect for application that need to be shared, or it should have a storage even after the container is having some problem. So use case it is used for storing the configuration file and data that multiple containers need to share. So ஏனென்றால் உங்களோட EFS file system is going to talk to multiple containers. So it can be a common repository for everyone. Next its application requires multi-AZ access for reliability. Okay. So FSX for Ledger is not supported with ECS. Please remember that. Then Amazon X3 cannot be mounted as a file system. It uses EFS instead of file-based storage. Because while teaching this topic, everyone might have think, why don't we use EBS or S3 itself? But we cannot mount that. பண்ண முடியாது. FSX உங்களோட ஒரு Amazonோட ஒரு service தான். It's basically a managed service that's going to give you a reliable file storage solution. So like we have EFS, EBS, FSX ஒரு topic actually. So the FSX as the name says, அது பெருசா full form இருக்க மாதிரி தெரியல எனக்கு. File system X நினைச்சேன். ஆமா. File system X. X means it's basically a very low, ultra fast, and it's suitable for demanding workloads. And FSX you can actually use it with EC2 use பண்ணலாம். And முதல்ல we have been using with EKS and ECS also, but for ECS இப்போதைக்கு we are not using it. And the main type of FSX பார்த்தீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு Amazon FSX கூட we can have for Windows file service பண்ணலாம், or Amazon FSX for Ledger இருக்கு உங்களுக்கு இப்ப பார்த்த மாதிரி. இது இல்லாம I think இன்னொரு ரெண்டு let me check what is it. நெட்டாப்பா FSX for Ledger இருக்கு. Yes. Reference data types of FSX file systems. மொத்தம் 4-5 இருக்குதுல. போடல. FSX for NetApp இருக்கா, அப்புறம் ஓப்பன் ZFS இருக்கு. இது விண்டோஸ். இப்போ நம்ம பார்த்தது Ledger. இந்த டாபிக் உள்ள போகாதீங்க. It's an advanced one, so as of now not required. No, it's not required actually. Fine. So let's talk about the ECS auto scaling. So we know already what is auto scaling means, correct? That we already know. That why do we use auto scaling? So let's see the ECS point of view auto scaling என்னது. Very simple தான். ECS ஒரு task இருக்கு இல்லையா, number of task increase பண்றதுக்கும் and to decrease the number of tasks we are using auto scaling. Now Amazon ECS auto scaling uses AWS application auto scaling. Nothing but Amazon order ECS auto scaling option uses our auto scaling only, like actual Amazon order. Because ECS service average CPU utilization, ECS service average memory utilization, and auto application load balancer request count per target, we can do that. So let's see one by one these things. So what is auto scaling means first of all. Auto scaling now automatically increasing or decreasing the number of ECS tasks. Definition in terms of ECS service, auto scaling means increasing or decreasing the number of ECS tasks based on the demand. Example, if your application is getting lot of traffic, there are traffic vardana, ECS can add more traffic to handle the load. When the traffic goes low, ECS can reduce the number of tasks so that you can save a lot of money in that. Now, how does ECS auto scaling works? First one, the metric, upper scaling policy. So, either base panni ECS task na adhir padtradho and reduce padtradho. Obviously based on metric, right? So ECS uses CloudWatch metrics to decide when to scale up and scale down. எப்பெல்லாம் நான் வந்து scale up பண்ணனும் இல்ல down போகணும்னு சொல்லி முடிவு பண்றது யாரு? AWSோட CloudWatch metric. CloudWatch metric. First, I will check out the CPU utilization. So I can scale task based on how much CPU is being used. Next, memory utilization. And it can scale based on how much RAM I need. Even ALB request. It can scale task based on the number of requests coming from the application load balancers. Next, scaling policies. See, ECS auto scaling supports 3 types of scaling policies. One the target scaling, step scaling, scheduled scaling. It's very simple. Target scaling na automatically scales task to maintain specific CloudWatch metric. எனக்கு பாத்தீங்கன்னா டார்கெட் சொல்றேன்னா CloudWatch metricல வந்து எனக்கு CPU வந்து 50% இருக்கணும் எப்போதுமே அப்படின்னு நான் கொடுத்துறேன். It should be always 50% CPU இருக்கணும். இந்த டார்கெட்டை மெயின்டைன் பண்றதுக்காக I can increase or decrease the ECS task. Next, step scaling. It adds or removes the task based on the CloudWatch alarms. For a specific CloudWatch alarm, I can either decrease or increase the number of tasks. Next, scheduled scaling. Now it can scale at specific times. Like it can add tasks during the peak time. Imagine that was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 3 நாளைக்கு என்னோட ஷாப்ல சேல் அதிகமாக போகுதுன்னா அந்த குறிப்பிட்ட நாட்கள்ல மட்டும் என்ன பண்ணுவேன்? I can increase the number of tasks. So what are the points you should remember in this basically? See, ECS service auto scaling works at a task level. ECS order auto scaling sonnale, the first thing that should come to your mind is task level. So ECS task adhiya padthodhu kambartha mean pandrom when I say ECS service auto scaling. Now this is different from EC2 auto scaling because that is used to manage EC2 instance order power. Now for Fargate auto scaling, it's easier because it's serverless. Because you will not manage EC2 instances here. Please remember, one EC2 instance I'm going to increase the number of tasks. Here you can see. Here, if you see carefully, I am increasing the number of tasks inside EC2 instances. Okay. Now, why to use? You know that because it's going to be very efficient. It's going to be cost saving and reliable also. Conclusion nu paakumbodhu ECS service auto scaling ensures that your application always ready to handle any amount of traffic because and it's going to save your time also because you manually வந்து task increase பண்றதோ decrease பண்ண தேவையில்லை. And also it's cost effective. So these are the 3 types. Now, so far, auto scaling la வந்து ECS ஓட service இருக்கு இல்லையா? Nothing but உங்களோட ECS task நம்ம increase பண்ணோம். ECS ஓட task வந்து நம்ம increase பண்ணோம். So இப்போ இந்த given diagramல பாத்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு EC2 instanceக்குள்ள இருக்க task வந்து நம்ம multiply பண்ணோம்னா it can handle more amount of traffic. Now what do you guys think? What else I can do? I can also do more amount of EC2 instance, right? What if I need more amount of EC2 instance? அதுவும் இருக்கு இல்லையா? ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வந்து ECS டாஸ்க் நம்ம வந்து இன்க்ரீஸ் பண்ணிட்டு இருந்தோம். நெக்ஸ்ட் வந்து EC2 instance லான்ச் பண்ண போறோம். ஸோ அதுக்கு நம்ம யூஸ் பண்ண போறது பழைய கதை தான். ஆர்டர் ஸ்கேலிங் குரூப் இருக்கு இல்லையா, அதை யூஸ் பண்ணிக்கலாம். ஸோ ஆர்டர் ஸ்கேலிங் குரூப்பை யூஸ் பண்ணி I can increase or decrease in the number of instances. And this will be applicable only for EC2 instance launch time. So this diagram represents the old topic which we just now saw. இது ஃபுல்லா பாருங்க. Let me know if you able to understand it. புரியலனா சொல்லுங்க, I'll explain it. Just see one by one.
ப்ரோ இப்போ ஒரு EC2க்குள்ள டாஸ்க் அதிகமாகும்போது அதோட EC2ஓட லோடும் அதிகமாகும்ல.
என்னப்பா?
இப்போ ECS யூஸ் பண்ணி அந்த டாஸ்க்கை வந்து ஸ்கேல் பண்றோம்ல, அப்போ அந்த ஒரு EC2க்குள்ள இருக்கிற டாஸ்க் அதிகமாகும்போது அந்த இன்ஸ்டன்ஸோட லோடும் அதிகமாகும்ல.
ஆமா, அதுக்காக தான் நம்ம வந்து EC2வை நம்ம டபுள் பண்றோம், ஆர்டர் ஸ்கேலிங் பண்றோம். அதுக்கு வாட்ச் பண்ணணும். EC2 இன்ஸ்டன்ஸோட லோட் அதிகமானா டபுள் பண்ணணும். இதை வந்து செலக்ட் பண்ணுங்க.
அந்த ECS டாஸ்க்கை மட்டும் டபுள் பண்ணும், அந்த டாஸ்க் ஓவர்லோட் ஆகும்போது EC2வை டபுள் பண்ணும், அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க.
Sorry, pa. I got an order. சொல்லுங்க. What was the question?
அதான் ஒரு இன்ஸ்டன்ஸ்க்குள்ள டாஸ்க் அதிகமாகும் போது அந்த டாஸ்கை வந்து ஸ்கேல் பண்றது ஈஸி ஸ்கேலிங் மூலமா பண்றோம் கரெக்டா?
ஆமா.
அதே இன்ஸ்டன்ஸ்ல லோட் ஆகும்போது செகண்டா நம்ம வந்து EC2வையும் ஸ்கேல் பண்றோம்.
ஆமா.
ஓகே. ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வந்து நம்ம ECS அந்த டாஸ்க் மட்டும் தான் ஸ்கேல் பண்றோம் ஒரு இன்ஸ்டன்ஸ்க்குள்ள.
இது தனித்தனியா இல்ல. இது 1000 இது முடிஞ்சதுக்கு அப்புறம் இது ஆகணும் அப்படின்னு அவசியம் இல்லை.
ஓகே.
ஸோ டிஃப்ரெண்ட் திங்ஸ். இது மெட்ரிக்கை பொறுத்திருக்கு. So இந்த diagramல anyone has any doubts? Okay, I'll explain it now clearly. So in this, let's see, we're going to understand how autoscaling works in ECS with the real life example of scaling based on CPU usage. அதான் வந்து condition, ஓகேங்களா? So this will help us to understand the question what even he asked. ECS ensures our application can handle more amount of traffic efficiently. So let's understand this particular example, what is happening here. Situation பாத்தீங்கன்னா, a service called service A is running some task in ECS. We have task 1, task 2, irukanta. Each task is like containers that process the request from the users. As more user sends request, என்னோட CPU usage வந்து இங்கே இருந்து இது மாதிரி அதிகமாயிருச்சு. This is actually triggered by my CloudWatch metric. So CloudWatch metric வந்து CPU usage monitor பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காரு, and he observes that there is, and when the triggering, when the CPU usage crosses above 70%, my CloudWatch metric is triggering an alarm. This alarm tells the ECS task to add new task to handle increased load. So ECS automatically launches a new task called task 3. This reduces the burden of task 1 and task 2, keeping the application responsive. So இதுல சிம்பிளா நம்ம 4 விஷயம் பண்றோம். ஒன்னு வந்து CloudWatch metric யூஸ் பண்ணி ECS ஓட CPU மானிட்டர் பண்றோம். If the CloudWatch metric like a CPU usage more than 70% போச்சுன்னா, I'm adding or removing the task. Based on that, optionally, I can even increase the number of EC2 itself with the help of autoscaling group. இவனால இவன் கூட பேச முடியும். Through that autoscaling group use பண்ணி, I can even multiply the number of EC2 instances if required. So this is what happening here actually. Next is your ECS rolling updates. Next is your ECS rolling update. See, when updating a version 1 to version 2, we can have control on how many tasks can be started and stopped, and in which order. Let's talk about how ECS handles rolling updates. This is a way to update your service without downtime. So your application stays available even you're rolling out a new version of your application. Let's talk about what is a rolling update means. Now, a rolling update is a process of replacing the old task with new task running version 2. So, old task எல்லாமே version 1 ஆயிட்டு இருக்கு. இதை replace பண்ண போறோம் with the help of new task which is running version 2. This ensures that your services are keep running even though the updates are happening. Now, how does it works? First, பாத்தீங்கன்னா, we have something called task replacement. Now, ECS basically starts new task with a new version. Once the new task is running and healthy, ECS stops old task. immediately. This ensures that certain number of tasks on V1 remains running during the updates. For example, இப்போ ஒரு டாஸ்க் கம்ப்ளீட் பண்றதுக்கு 100% வேணும்னா 100% மாறிடாது. 100% ஓல்ட் டாஸ்க் வந்து நம்ம ஸ்டாப் பண்ண மாட்டோம். Without stopping the old task, we gradually move the application to the new task. Let's say that we are updating a service from version 1 to version 2. All tasks in blue color are V1. ECS launches a new task on V2. Once V2 is running healthy, ECS will stop task one by one. This process repeats until unless V2 completely taken over the entire application. So the benefit பாத்தீங்கன்னா this is technically termed as ECS rolling updates. The rolling updates சொல்றாங்கன்னா we have a zero downtime and we can have a controlled update on my particular applications. And if something goes wrong, we can even go roll back to the previous version. Update ஆகும்போது version issue இருக்குன்னா I can easily roll back to my previous version and work normally. So here, starting number of tasks is 4 and we are updating from minimum 50% to maximum 100%. So இதுல பாத்தீங்கன்னா we have V1 போட்டிருக்கல இது எல்லாமே version 1. அடுத்து வந்து version 2 இருக்கு அதோட சேம் அப்ளிகேஷன் தான். So இங்க parameter பாத்தீங்கன்னா this parameter means that minimum health percentage and maximum health percentage. Minimum healthy percentage na at least 50% of the task must stay running and healthy during the updates. This is the condition. And maximum na ECS can only run up to 100% of tasks at any point of time, including both version 1 and version 2. So the first la பாத்தீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு 200% போட்டிருக்கும், which means 100% task 1 version 1 100% version 2 மாத்திப்பாங்க. இந்த இடத்துல வந்து version 1 and 2 சேர்த்தே வந்து 100% தான் இருக்கணும். So first வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா let's see the walkthrough now. Starting stateல பார்க்கும்போது I am having 4 version 1 running. Now these tasks are actually serving my users. ஓகேங்களா? So step 1ல we are adding version 2 task from current running version 1 and then we are stopping the version 1. அப்புறம் we are including this version 1 service also in the same place value. அதுக்கப்புறம் இங்க நடக்கிற version 1 version 2 மாத்துறோம். அப்ப எப்படி அர்த்தம்னா இங்க நடக்கக்கூடிய பிளாக்ஸ்ல ஐ மீன் ECSல வந்து டாஸ்க்ல version 2 இருக்கான் version 1 இருக்கான். அப்புறம் கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சமா version 1 மட்டும் மூவ் பண்ணிட்டு வரோம். அப்புறம் version 1 version 2 மாத்திடுறோம் complete ECS blockல வந்து. So ECS continues this process adding version 2 task and stopping version 1 task one by one until unless everything is getting updated to the version 2. இந்த settings எதுக்காக யூஸ் பண்றோம்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா when minimum 50% we have to ensure the service is always running so it can handle my current request users. Benefit nu பாத்தீங்கன்னா it's very safe for deployment because the service will always be running during the updates and we can have the control number of tasks running at any point of time. நம்ம வந்து task double பண்ணி ஒன்னு க்ளோஸ் பண்ணல, we are controlling the number of tasks. இதுல வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா அதே 4 tasks ஆயிட்டு இருக்கு. பழையது மாதிரி நம்ம if you have 8 tasks na we are not creating 8 new version of task. So that's the benefit. So now you can understand by yourself this one. Minimum 100% and maximum 50%. இது புரிஞ்சுங்க, புரியலனா ask me, I'll tell again. Is it clear? Next, ECS task invoked by event bridge is a pakamatom because as of now, I have not covered event bridge. So please someone write down the slide number 503. Okay, so let's see the next topic called Amazon ECR, Elastic Container Registry. Simple solopana, Docker image, repository, again I can take and use and run task and all. So let's understand this for topic now. ECR expands to Elastic Container Registry. Basically, it is used for storing and managing the Docker images on AWS. Let's talk about Amazon ECR, a service that helps you to store and manage Docker images on AWS. This is essential part of running containers on ECS actually. So first of all, what is ECR? Expands to Elastic Container Registry. It's a place to store, manage, and share Docker images that your containers can use actually. Talking about the key features of Amazon ECR, we can have private and public repository. The last time we started in gallery.ecr.aws. Again, I can take the images and all. Then fully integrated with ECS, backed by Amazon S3, meaning your ECR works seamlessly with ECS, making it easy to pull images for a task, and the image are stored in the Amazon S3 for durability and reliability. Next, we can have IAM integration also, like the access to the ECR is managed through IAM policies. Additional pathina, we have vulnerability scanning by default present versioning, and even we have automatic deleting of old images to save storage. So like we have to push Docker image to ECR. The developers basically build Docker images and push them in the ECR repository. The ECS task pulls these images from ECR using IAM roles, and these images are used to create containers to run on your application. So the image build பண்றது யாரு developers build பண்ணி repository போட்டுருவாங்க. repository task ECS இருக்கு இல்லையா, ECS pull பண்ணி work பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கும். That's the simple overview. So now let's talk about the EKS overview. Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Services. So let's talk about the EKS, Elastic Kubernetes Services. So basically, it's a way to launch managed Kubernetes cluster on AWS. This service actually lets you run and manage Kubernetes on AWS. Let's see one by one or step by step. First of all, EKS, it's basically a service that you run that's going to help you in running managed Kubernetes clusters on AWS. Now, what is a Kubernetes? Kubernetes use panni is basically an open source system, and the use panni I can deploy containers I can scale applications automatically. I can even manage and monitor the containers here. Next, how does EKS differ from ECS? Very important one, because Elastic Container Service இருக்கு, EKS இருக்கு. Difference என்ன பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, see, they are similar because both of them run containers, but they use different APIs. ECS ன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, it uses AWS specific API. இதே Kubernetes ன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, it's an open source and it works across multiple clouds. அந்த API யூஸ் பண்ணி I can even talk to AWS, Azure and GCP. அதுவும் கூட நல்லா பேச முடியும். Talking about key features of EKS, it has both support of EC2 as well as Fargate. And Kubernetes பார்த்தீங்கன்னா open source. So Kubernetes வந்து தனியா கோர்ஸ் எடுப்பாங்க. And Kubernetes is an open source and it is not tied with AWS. Meaning, Kubernetes வந்து it is there with the Azure also, GCP also. So multi-cloud deployment பண்ணும்போது we can use EKS. Now, if your company is already using Kubernetes, then EKS is the best way to run it on the AWS. But since your Kubernetes is a common cloud use பண்றது, you can move your application between AWS and other cloud provider also. இப்போ உங்க application வந்து move பண்ண போறீங்க, AWS வந்து Azure கோ GCP கோனா, Kubernetes is the best option to go with. Okay. So simple சொல்ல போனா ECS வந்து அது வந்து Amazonோட proprietary சொல்லலாம். இது வந்து open source. So here is the proper EKS diagram. This is simple diagram da, because it's almost same like your ECS diagrams. Fine. So that's all for today, guys. If you have any questions,